Is that bold? Do you reckon?
Doing it again. Harley Reid ends up leaving, but West Coast are better off without him.
What is one bold prediction? I'll start off with you.
Start off with you.
Okay, I actually have one. All right,
Yeah.
I will start this one off.
Please.
My bold prediction, Michael Voss will not have a job after season 2025.
I agree.
Is that bold? Do you reckon?
Doing it again.
God damn it. Do you reckon he will have a job at the end of 2025?
Probably not.
I don't think so. I don't know if that's hot take, though. I don't know if that's a bold prediction.
Not anymore. Had you have said this before last week, it would have been a really hot take. But I just think that given how shit they were and how tactically inept he is during a game,
That was an
in terms
awful-
of making changes.
That was an awful...
Shocking.
Oh, my God. I couldn't
Shocking.
believe some of the decisions being
Yeah.
made. Like, sure, the skills on display didn't help, but I still can't get over how Cripps had gotten himself, even after how, like, poor it looked like the play was turning around for them once Cripps had gone into the ruck, right?
Yeah.
Sam Walsh backed off a little bit. That was one that surprised me. He just felt like he wouldn't step up for the life of me. So I'm like, I tell you what you do.
So
you
confusing.
put Cripps in his usual position, but they just refused to. They
was-
refused to.
I don't get
And you
it.
have to find a different way.
Yeah.
You had to, right? You found Jack Silvani towards the end of the game had started to step up. And sure, maybe that's the reason. The fact that Mackay was the only big forward was the only reason you didn't want to put him in the ruck, right? But you have to find a way to put your Brownlow medal winning, your two-time Brownlow medal winning player in his preferred position. I don't know why they were so consistent on him being the ruckman, and just that alone had made me think, what is Voss doing? What is he thinking? And so I guess based off of one round, one game, I think Michael Voss won't have a job by the end of the season.
Fair enough. I've thought of a bold prediction.
Yep.
And you can come at me for this all you like based off of my rant last week on St Kilda people who should have been St Kilda people but weren't. Harley Reid ends up leaving, but West Coast are better off without him.
I like it. I like where you're kind of going.
Now, where he goes, I don't know. I'm sure Geelong will 100% be going for him.
They
I'm
always
sure
are,
Essendon, St Kilda,
St Kilda will offer him
all of
something.
them,
Everyone will.
they'll-
I think
they'll go
everyone
for him.
realistically will offer him something.
And it's not about where he leaves. I just think that he does leave and that West Coast, whatever they get for him, will be enough. Because there's a chance they get Chad Warner and they might not even have to give up as much as what they get for Harley Reid. So you get a better player. You get a player who's probably going to fit your timeline almost better. Elijah Hewitt then has a chance to break out a bit more than what he would have if Harley Reid's there, because we already know what Chad Warner is. Trying to develop multiple players at the same time is a bit harder than having someone who can support the player developing. So I think if they can trade him to even a team like the Bulldogs, where you get someone like Jed Buslinger back, you get their picks and everything, then you have a key back who can pair alongside Harry Edwards, Jeremy McGovern, Brady Hoff. Then you can set up behind the ball, and then you allow someone like all their picks to go to Sydney. You get Chad Warner. You get a midfield of Hewitt, Jinby, Baker, and Chad Warner. You're set up defensively. You got some really good spark offensively, and you've got someone like Bo Allen as well. I think that could potentially help them more than it would rather than taking the time to develop Harley Reid's game. And he also just doesn't look invested. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, what he's got, is his partner still Yasmin Dersma?
Yes, I believe
She
so.
plays for Carlton.
Yep.
And so obviously a long distance relationship can be a big factor.
And-
all his family,
Yep.
all of that could definitely be something that drags him back to Victoria.
Yeah.
I think, look, I've always been a fan of players trusting the process, right? I think there's a lot of North players that I will forever love because they trust the process. And LDU, if he were to leave, I would trust the process and say,
Yeah.
you know what, that's fair. You've done what you can. Thank you for your service. But back with Harley, I think West Coast, right? I think they get a lot of value. I think
Heaps.
I think it back, and I hate that I keep bringing it back to North Melbourne. I'll try my best not to every time, but Jason
more
Horn-Francis,
creative, mate.
Jason Horn-Francis,
Be
right?
more creative.
After one season and probably the least amount of value he had,
Yeah.
North Melbourne managed to get, I think it was pick 3 or pick 4. They got either Sheasel or Wardlaw, right? And you have to look at it from that perspective.
Either or, yeah.
They could have had Horne-Francis, who was not invested, but they lost him after a year and cashed in early and managed to get something pretty good out of it. So I agree with the idea of if Harley leaves, right, and they trade him, I think, the value that he provides would be more than Horne-Francis would.
100%.
Or he'd bring back more. He'd bring back more value for West Coast.
He'd bring back more, 100%.
So I like the idea of it being better off for West Coast. I think the hot take maybe isn't as much Harley Reid leaving, more West Coast will be better off doing so.
Yeah, that's...
And so maybe,
depending on... The take is that Harley take will leave, but the bold take is that West Coast are better off without him.
Yeah, okay. I like it. I think... Yeah, on your similar topic of Harley Reid, getting more value out of him leaving than if he were to stay, I think more teams will get confident picking players out of state in their top picks if they can get the value out of it.
Yeah.
Right? You have the questions with Harley when he was picked. You had the questions with Horne-Francis when he was picked. And will happen forever. The value they provide. Is it worth sending them off to bring in more value?
Yeah.
Obviously losing the talent that is that particular player. I think if Harley's trade, if that is to happen, if that were to pay off, then more teams would be confident picking those high-level players, no matter where they're from.
I think it might be less confident, but they'd almost take the risk because if they do leave, teams are willing to pay so much for it. Like
they're still young.
They'll
always have the idea of we're their hometown.
Yeah.
We can do it better, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think teams need to make the most of that.